Sunday afternoon, guys. I've got you sitting on the back of my 2003 Honda VFR 800. It's right at about 35,000 miles, and it is in need of an oil change. Now, that's not to say that I've waited 35,000 miles. I'm going to change oil. Change oil every 3,000 miles. But bought this bike used from a buddy of mine up in Nashville, Tennessee, and I finally put 3,000 miles on it. So now it needs an oil change, and so we're going to get to that in just a few seconds. If you've been watching the channel, you see my other videos, you notice that just recently I uploaded a video where I did some chain maintenance to the bike. First time it's been done in a while. I also did a video on how I detail the bike and what products I use. So check those out. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. Make sure you hit the little bell button, make sure you subscribe. And today's video is basically on how to change oil on an 03 VFR. Now, I've had other bikes. God knows I've had tons of bikes, and each bike is uniquely different. Now, the 04 to 2012 Honda CBR 1000s that I've had in the past, those were all pretty much universal. They were stupid simple on how to change oil. You pop one side of the fairing off, you drain the oil. I think it was like a 12mm wrench. Put a crush washer back on it, bam, swap out your filter, boom. 3.5 quarts later, boom, you're done. This bike, it's been a hot minute since I've had a VFR, so kind of learning as I go. Point of this video is to kind of show you, I guess, my mistakes and go from there. So no further ado, here we go. All of my other motorcycles that I've owned, they took anywhere from 3 quarts up to 5 quarts, depending if it was a Harley, a Triumph, a Honda, blah, 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 blah. So today I've got 4 quarts of HP4 synthetic oil. This is without moly. This is what I used to use in my 2012 CBR. These were leftovers that I had. Got the oil filter. If you don't have one of those oil filter wrenches, I strongly suggest you go get one. It'll save you a couple 4-letter words. 17-inch socket, 3/8 drive, 4-head socket, oil drain pan, crush washers, and various bits and sockets and stuff that I just keep. It's kind of like my motorcycle tray, if you will, of just various things. So got all the materials. Now it's time to pull the fairings off. So on an 03, I found that the easiest way to do it is to come from the left side of the bike. So put it up on a center stand. If you don't have a center stand, put it on the rear stand. If you don't have that, well, you're going to have fun. But anyway, center stand, kickstand down. You got one of the fairing bolts here, one of the fairing bolts here, fairing bolt here, one up top, one there, and you'll have one of these bad boys sitting right here, and then you'll have a one right here. Now, it's not necessary that you take all those out. I take them out because it makes my job easier. You do what you want, but I take the whole fairing off. I go underneath. It's a 17mm socket. I drain the oil. When I'm pretty sure the oil's clean or emptied out, then I'll crack the filter, drain everything out, and go from there. So I've removed the bolts, and now I'll remove the fairing. Okay, for those who are not comfortable with removing their fairing, and here's the reason why, is a lot of VFR owners don't like this section right here of where they're fairing, how it snaps all together. So what I did is I removed all the screws, and I kind of got it just sitting there, kind of hanging in the wind, so to speak, and that's so that you don't have to worry about changing the alignment of your fairings. Okay, your call on how you want to do it, but for the purpose of this video, I just slid the oil pan up underneath of it. I'm getting ready to crack the drain plug. Kind of got the fairings just sitting there so that you don't have to pull them off all the way. Folks will argue with you that you do, and I say you don't. So this video is just to show you that you don't have to. So on the left hand side of the bike, right over by the exhaust, you'll see the 2 drain tubes for the gas. That's your overflow for the gas tank, and overflow for one of your radiators. So those are just overflow tubes. But right behind that overflow tube, you'll see that 17-inch bolt. That's what you'll need to back out on. Now be careful, because when you back it out, it won't dribble oil until you get down to like the last thread or two, and then it's going to want to dump everywhere. So just a heads up. Okay, and ladies and germs, gone ahead and pulled the 17mm drain plug out of this bike, and like I warned, it will not start leaking, start discharging oil until you get down to like the last thread, and just as you pop it, it's going to go everywhere if you're not ready for it. I was ready, so got it all over my hands, but hey, that's what you get for changing oil. But the oil was not in bad shape. It might have lasted another 1,000 miles or so. It wasn't very dirty, wasn't very soiled. Quite happy with it. So I'm going to let it sit here and drain for a little bit more before I tackle the filter. I'm going to take the drain plug and take it out with a wire brush and clean it up just a little bit, make sure it's got no gunks. One thing I did not show on the video that I wanted to, and I forgot the camera was turned off. When you guys tighten these drain bolts down, don't go stupid with them. Put them on snug, put them on to the point where they're snug. Maybe an eighth of a turn more, maybe, if that. Because you got to remember, this thing's going to heat and cool down, expand and extract and blah, blah, blah. And if you torque this down too much, you are going to strip out your drain plug, and then you are just screwed. This one, again, this is the first oil change I've done on this bike since I bought it. This one was pretty damn tight. I had to use a breaker bar to break it loose. I guarantee I will not be putting it back on that tight. And we'll show you the reasons, the steps behind that. But don't torque these down, guys. I mean, you're killing yourselves. So we got the drain plug out. The last few remaining drips are coming out of the bike into the oil pan, into the drain pan. And once I'm satisfied that it's empty, I'll put the plug back in and we'll move on to the filter. But pulled this plug out, and the previous owner is a real good friend of mine. He used to run this thing on the track all the time. So you'll see that this particular drain plug has been drilled through the sidewall and through the top, and that's for safety wiring, so that you can, some tracks won't let you run unless your oil stuff is safety wired. The brakes on this bike and all, I mean, this bike is just track prepped. All you got to do is drop the center stand, and you can go race this thing all day long, which I'll be doing later this year. But anyway, drain plug, this is quite a bit larger than the 12mm ones that come with the today's standard CBRs. You can see the threads are pretty good. One thing that I love that the previous owner did is he put in a crush washer that is self-sealing. So that means I shouldn't have to replace the crush washer. I mean, I've got them and could use them, but don't think I need to. I think I'm looking at this one. It's beveled. I'm pretty cool. I'm gonna reuse this. If I get a small drip here and there, well, then I'll know I need to replace it, and I'll replace it with one of those. No biggie. But you can see that's what I was talking about earlier. Don't torque it down, because you can see what it did to the crush washer. So just a heads up, okay? And we still got a drippy too, so it's about ready. And then we'll do the filter. And the easiest way to come and do the filter, guys, is you put the drain plug back in place so you're not leaking oil all over your driveway. Move your drain pan forward to near the front tire, and you'll find the filter is, I can't show you because the filter's kind of like right there, right in that area. So, all right, be back in a minute. All right, the camera's probably not going to focus at all, but drain plug is put back in, and it's finger tight. I'm getting ready to put a socket on it real quick, go snug, and maybe an 1/8 of an inch turn more, like I talked about earlier. Listen, when you're done, take a rag and try to wipe down all the flat surfaces that you can see underneath of it. Like you can see oil is on those drainage tubes. If you don't, you're going to do what I call a false positive. You're going to put everything back together, you're going to fire that bike off, and you're going to start seeing a drip, and you're like, oh shit, what happened? And you're going to find out that it's just a secondary drip from when you were draining the oil. It's not actually leaking, but unfortunately then you got oil all over your driveway or your garage. So wipe everything down, make it nice and clean. so that if you do have a problem, you'll know that it's a problem and not something that you overlooked. Okay, so down over yonder, kind of change the attack angle here a little bit. You'll see the drain plug. You should be able to make it out just next to the tubes, so it should be like right there. No, I'm not flipping you off, but it should be right there. And then you come up here to the front and you will see the oil filter. Okay, again, I think I've said this before, opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one. Some people tell you don't use Fram, some people tell you, use Puriflow, blah 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 blah. I say use the one that you can afford and the one that you can you have faith or maybe experience in. I personally use K&N. I use K&N air filters, K&N oil filters. Your call, don't hate. I showed you earlier in that little inventory that I had sitting on the ground an oil filter wrench. You'll see that I have came in through here up through top and then kind of dropped it down on top of the filter. And I'm telling you, it will save you an arm and a leg and a lot of heartache if you start using one of those. So much easier to be able to get in there and twist that filter off. So you notice I've already got it in, getting ready to put a wrench to it, and we'll crank it off. Alright, so as you can see, the filter is sitting right there, and this is why you drain the oil from the drain cap first. You'll notice that it's now loose enough to where it's dripping. Notice it's going to get all over your exhaust pipe. So when you put this all back together, remember I said wipe everything down, clean it all up. That way you don't think that you made a mistake. So, drain it and then clean it up. Well, now you can kind of sort of see what I mean. Very, very tight to get in there. And even if you're being super careful, you're still going to get oil all over the exhaust pipe. So don't be worried when you first start the bike if you see some smoke and whatnot. I mean, that's just the way it is. In my case, I kind of got a little happy, so so I got to do some cleanup. So if no one ever taught you, after you get the drain plug out, you get the oil all drained out, you put everything back together, you remove the filter, you got the new filter in your hand. Before you install the new filter, take your finger, dip it in the oil, whether it's used or new, it doesn't matter, and you basically want to soak that little black ring that's right there. Soak it up real quick and then put it on, and never go more than hand tight on your filter, ever. Okay, and we'll do that here and button everything back up in just a minute. Guys, we were just talking about this awesome oil filter wrench that I picked up from corneraddiction.com. I love this thing. It comes in so much handy. It basically slides onto the oil filter, and then you use this little socket wrench and twisty twist, and you can get your filter off and on without any problems. Now, if I had one drawback to say about this oil filter wrench, is that when you slide it on, there's dirt and debris and whatnot on the filter, probably from road, and so it literally, it becomes extremely tight, so that when you get the filter out, you can't get the bloody wrench back off the filter. So I'm gonna try a new one. D at Corner Addiction was telling me that there's this new one that comes with a little pin that allows you to kind of suction cup it off. I think that'd be kind of cool. So maybe I'll do a product review on that shortly. But anyway, if you don't have one of these filters, go get one. You will thank me for it. So new filters in, drain plugs in. All I gotta do now is get rid of any drippage from my happiness, and we'll button this puppy back together, and then I'll show you where to add the oil and how to fire it off and test and blah 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 blah. Everything's done. I've got it cleaned, I've got it detailed, I've got it all finished. Last thing to do is to add oil to it, fire it off, make sure everything works the way I want it to. So for those of you that don't have a VFR, here's where you add your oil, and here is a sight glass down here. Make sure the bike's on a level, stable area, either side stand or center stand, preferably center stand. But again, if you don't have a center stand, use rear stands. But basically, I mean, it's pretty simple. Just pull out your plug, use what do you call it? Talk about a brain fart. You know what it is. Add your oil. I usually start at 3.5 quarts and then test. Let it run for a few minutes, test, and then add up to 4 or 5 depending upon the bike. Okay, funnel. Funnel was the word that I was looking for. Funnel. All right, I've got 3 quarts of HP4 in this 03 VFR, and you can see through the sight glass. I don't know if the camera will pick that up or not, but with 3 quarts in it right now, it's at the upper fill line. Normally, if the bike was sitting still, this is where we would want it to be. But remember, it's got a brand new filter in it. It has not been cranked over yet. And so what will happen is I'll crank it over, the filter will suck up that oil, and it'll probably be closer to the bottom fill line. So then we'll add an extra 1/2 quart and we'll go from there. But right now we've got enough to crank it over and make sure that it's functional. Okay, so put the cap back on it and cranked it off, and you'll see that it's now completely out of the sight glass. So we'll let it come up with the temperature for just a second, and we'll put in another 1/2 quart and go from there. Okay, so after running for about 4 or 5 minutes, you can see all the oil's been kind of sucked down into the pan. What you can't tell is the oil is right at the very bottom of the sight glass. It looks like the sight glass has oil on it. It does. That's you know, it hasn't dripped all the way down all the way. So currently at the moment it needs about 0.3 more quarts, and we're done. So hope you enjoyed, and good luck with changing your own stuff. Okay guys, we started out with adding 3 quarts to it. That's a little less than what the manufacturer recommends. 3 quarts is just enough to, you know, fill up the pan, the pump, and all that crap. And then when you fire it off, of course, you got to end up filling up the filter. So of course, you know, boom, 3 is not enough. I believe the manufacturer wants 3.3, but 3 is enough to fire off the engine, make sure that everything's flowing properly, that you got everything sealed, no leaks, etc., etc. So we let it run for about 3-4 minutes, turned it off, popped the cap, as you can see, and added another 0.3. Now, you ain't got to be a rocket scientist about it. You can do 0.3, you can do half. Just look at your sight glass, and of course know that the bottom is your low, and your the upper one is okay. Crap, you might maybe put too much in there, but you know, go for a happy medium. But when you're done, put the cap back on it. You can learn from my lessons, which is I always keep an empty quart, and then I put the funnel inside that empty quart, and then I put a paper towel in it, and that keeps it from getting dripping all over the place, all over your driveway, and etc. And it's kind of easy to store. So hope this video helps you out a little bit, saves you a little bit of cash. Who wants to go down to a dealership and pay money when you don't have to, right? So hope that helps you, and happy riding. See you on the next one. From boy, I'm gonna cut that shit out. That didn't work. All right, so let's try this again. Blooper reel. So on today's episode of In the Creek Without a Paddle,